Okay, so today I am delighted to be joined by such a talented lady. I've known her probably for about, I think, 15 years now, and have always been bowled over by her spirit, her energy, her tenaciousness, her determination, her can-do attitude, and the amount of success that she's had in her life, which is all pretty much self-driven. So Ching is an international Emmy nominated TV chef and cookery author. She was born in Taiwan, raised in South Africa and the UK. So she's truly global. Her TV shows are sold, distributed, and broadcast around the world. So she's famous all over. So shows like Ching's Kitchen, Exploring China, Ching's Amazing Asia, and then over in the United States, 2 series of Restaurant Redemption and Eat the Nation. And she's been a frequent guest on many, many shows like The Today Show and The Ray Show. You may well have one, two, or three, or all 7 or 8 of her best-selling books in your recipe shelf. I've just got her latest one here, Asian Greens, and I'm working my way through. It's absolutely delicious. So I want to welcome to the Fasttrack to Fearless podcast and videocast, Ching He Huang. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Oh my gosh, that's yeah, a bit embarrassed by that introduction, but thank you so much because
Well,
yeah, it's a long list of stuff.
Well, you've
Uh,
achieved, there's nothing embarrassing there because you've achieved it all. And
mm.
actually, that brings me to one of my first points is that I think you are the classic overachieving person who doesn't bask in all her achievements. You don't take them for granted.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm just speechless. I just yeah.
Yes.
It must be there must be something in my coffee that I've been drinking all this time. But no, I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, brilliant,
Thank you.
excellent. So this is all about career confidence and how people face career obstacles and get through things. But you've achieved so much in your life, and it's kind of like 360. It's products, it's books, it's on camera, off camera, the whole shebang. Can you take us back to where it all began and sort of paint a picture of you as a child or a teenager?
Um, I think I was brought up on a farm in Taiwan, very humble background, beginnings, just running around in flip-flops and shorts and, in a t-shirt in my grandmother's farm. And I didn't really know that food would become my career. So, uh, that was very much, I was in Taiwan until I was 5 years old. And then I moved to South Africa. My parents emigrated. My father was one of 7 siblings, and he was the only one that got a degree in university. And it was a big deal back then because, everyone pulled together their money, and so he could go away and get his degree, and that allowed him to work in a construction company. And then by chance, he met a businessman who was South African. And at that time in Taiwan, there wasn't much industry, there wasn't much commerce or business. And then so they decided it would be a great idea to export bicycles from Taiwan to South Africa. And so that's how they yeah, so that's how that journey began. And then before we knew it, we were on this metal thing, this thing that goes in the air, and we didn't know what it was. And we opened our eyes, my brother and I. We were so young. I was 5, he was 8, and we ended up on another farm. So from my grandmother's farm, which is the norm, for the grandchildren to be brought up by grandparents in Asia, while parents worked, we went from one farm to another. And this was Uncle Robert's farm, my father's business partner. So, uh, you know, life began in South Africa. It was still apartheid. My brother and I were the only Chinese children in the school. And it was a sort of difficult time. I think just trying to fit in, culturally and all of that. But we found ourselves and we found our feet. My father's business flourished, and then we moved to UK when I was 11, and we emigrated again that time because apartheid was about to be disintegrated. Nelson Mandela was about to be freed, um, and there was a lot of uh, sort of unrest in South Africa. And so we decided, and my father, having built up a successful business there, decided, it's time to emigrate to a safer country. And because South Africa and UK had Commonwealth links, he was like, well, let's settle in the UK. And so, before we knew it, another a journey on a metal thing on a plane, and then here we were, 11 years old. I was 11, and my brother was, sort of about 14, and we got into a place in secondary school, in North London. So yeah, it was a very interesting sort of childhood experience. In the first 11 years of my life, we moved, to two different countries. And culturally at that time, there were many differences, and I think that's really, I don't know. I think it's in many ways it's shaped who I am, very much so, definitely. And it's just interesting that we went from a farm in Taiwan to a farm in South Africa, but when we got to UK, we didn't move to a farm, and I was kind of hoping that we were. But I took up cooking in my early teens. I had to, because my father went away to work a lot. My mother did as well, but then my mum was, because of circumstances, she ended up going back to Taiwan, and so my father ended up in the UK, and so he's a very bad cook, and so that's how I learned to cook. So I guess, that was when I really delved into sort of cooking, and it's funny how the responsibilities fall on women to do like housework and the cooking, but this is very much an Asian cultural thing. And my brother was at boarding school a lot, so he escaped from all these sort of chores and things.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and
And
then
and Ching,
life carried on.
tell me what were you like as a child, and what did that sort of three continent childhood, um, and you mentioned sort of not fitting or trying to fit in, trying to assimilate with different cultures. What were the big sort of lessons or life lessons, do you think, looking back?
Um, it. I think the main thing was, I mean, I have very vivid memories of those times, and I think it's very much about. I mean, you don't think too much of it as a child, but then you are aware that you're different, because everyone looks different around you, and everyone behaves differently to you, towards you. Sometimes you get special treatment, and other times you're not. So it's, you're aware of these differences, and yeah, uh, I think you just try your best. I think as a child, you just learn to adapt,
Mm,
and you go with the flow.
mm,
And I think that's very much now one of my philosophies, is just going with the flow,
hmm.
and not judging a book by its cover, because, there's more to it than that, as we all know. But it's really about connecting, with people,
Yeah.
and experiences. I like to take that time, and I think in many ways now as an adult, it's just on a personal note. It's just made me even more um, cautious, and just protective of who I spend my time with as well.
Mm,
And I think as a young child, when you learn in that environment, you're kind of thrown in the deep end. You you In order to survive in a situation where there is, racism, and there is, misunderstanding, and there's cultural differences and all of that, I think you learn to take yourself out of the situation from an early age, so you see yourself, so you kind of detach yourself, and so it's easy for you to view yourself sometimes as another person, a
Mm,
third person. I think that's just from a personal point of view anyway.
mm,
That's what I think has allowed me to survive certain situations and to adapt.
yeah.
Is to be able to take yourself out of those and say, "Oh, look, you're at school and you're in the situation, and it's not that bad because And you sort of learn to talk to yourself in a sort of third person.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't, I don't know if that
it's
makes sense,
well, it
but
sounds like you had to adopt self-care practices very early on uh, to maintain resilience
mm,
and protect yourself.
I think it's very much, yeah, I think it's just maybe an inbuilt thing that happens. I mean, I don't know. I don't go about questioning it, that much, but I think
Yes,
that's very much my experience, and that's how I learnt in that situation that I
yes,
was, given. And everyone learns and adapts differently, but um, yeah, I think that's helped me. I mean, I had to grow up really quickly,
yes,
um, and I think that just makes you see things, maybe sometimes in a different way.
yes. Maybe,
So
yeah, maybe
yeah,
you were forced into being very pragmatic from an early age and getting on with
yes,
things because you didn't really have much choice.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mm.
so now we see you as sort of an entrepreneur and, on and off screen talent. But did you have a plan? Did you always know what you wanted to do once you got into food?
I didn't know. It just fell into place. So after you know, uh, secondary school, after university, I started a food business called Fuji. It basically produced lots of ready to eat foods for customers in London. I had like a cold bag and I was on the underground and lots of samples of different foods, dishes, and I would knock on uh, doors of sandwich shops, cafes, food producers, restaurateurs, trying to sell them my cool noodles, which I thought was a fantastic idea at the time. I was a broke student, just out of university. All my friends had gone into the city to be an accountant or a lawyer in finance and all of that. And I'd studied economics. And my parents had always hoped that I would go into business. And in a way, I had to go into business because I felt like there was no other way. Because by that point, my family were in so much debt from failed businesses. When we moved to the UK, my father lost his business. It was the 1990 recession when we moved. He lost everything at that time. He'd paid £250,000 so that we could emigrate to this country in the first place, and that was a lot of money. He put myself and my brother through boarding school, myself through private school, at secondary school. But by the time I was 15, and he'd lost a lot, um, I had to lie to go and find a job uh, in Brent Cross, working for Next. I was underage. You were supposed to be 16, and I was saying, "Please, I really need this job." And they didn't know, but I just it was a white sort of lie, because in the Chinese culture, you count from the moment that you're conceived. So, you're 9 months in the belly. I was like, well, I'm kind of 16 and a half anyway. 16, 15 plus 9 months. Yeah, give or take, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I got a job at Next, and that was my first experience of actually working. But anyway, long story short, and I'm going sort of, roundabout. But that experience, and then putting myself through the rest of school and then going to university, by the time I'd finished university and started my food business, I was so hungry for success for not just myself, but for my family, that I decided to embark on what was the craziest thing I thought that I would do, which is to set up my own food business. And I thought I could do it. And that's me, trudging around the streets of London, with this cold bag, with bags of noodles in there, trying to sell to everybody that I could think of. And it was through a family friend that we'd heard that there was a kitchen in North London, in a banquet hall, that was free, that I could take over, that I could use to set up my catering business. So I thought, great, that's a great idea. And the inspiration came because actually on one of the last days of university, I walked back to I was walking back from town, and I passed Pret a Manger, and they had noodle boxes. £2.99 it was for whole wheat noodles, bean sprouts, sesame seeds, and a packet of soy sauce. And I was like, this is what liang mian, the Asian Taiwanese liang mian is. No, my gosh, that is so gross and pared down and plain and a rip-off. And I thought, gosh, £2.99. Well, on that shelf there was 10 of those boxes, and at that time I think Pret had 50 stores or whatever, I can't remember, but I did the maths and I was like, well, that's a lot of money. And I can make better. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just thought I could do better. And so I went to Wing Yip in Cricklewood, which is near where we lived in North London, in Golders Green. And I went and bought these, sample packaging with the lid on, the clear lid and everything. I bought the noodles. I, shredded my cucumber, made an omelette, and got a little sachet of soy sauce and made a sesame sauce to go with it. And then I went to Call Quick and printed a label. And I thought, that's it. This is it. This is going to be the biggest thing since Pret a Manger's whole wheat noodles. So I ended up calling. I thought, well, who's a competitor to Pret? Because I tried Pret and they wouldn't entertain it. They were like, no, we don't buy in, darling. We make everything fresh in our kitchen. So I was very disappointed, and I ended up calling Europa Foods, which have now sold to Tesco Express. So they're no longer. I mean, I'm talking about 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I called up the buyer. I said, you really need to see this. It's Tim Marland, I remember. He's amazing, young guy. And he's like, okay, well, do you have a kitchen? Do you have, the ins and outs of, basically details of everything? What's your marketing strategy, your pricing, your kitchen? Do you have a food license to operate and all of this? Do you have distribution? And I just went, and he's like, you don't have any of this, do you? I said, no. He says, okay, well, look, this is what you need. And so I saw him when I was just about to wrap up the exams at university. And I think after that meeting, he thought there's no way that he would see me again. It's just too hard a list to achieve, all those things. And so I worked away. I found that kitchen in North London and found, and cobbled things together. And the last piece of the puzzle was distribution. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but the heavens opened up. I found a distributor who happened to be 5 minutes away from where my kitchens were. And it was like just in time. I didn't even need to invest in chilled vans in order to send these chilled food products out. They were going to come and collect from me. And I had 3 months free rent from the landlady. So all these people I call my guiren, I call my guardians, I call my angels, because without Tim Marland, without, the guys at Simple Simon, without, Mrs. Gong, who gave me the kitchen for 3 months, I wouldn't have been able to start my food business. And I started doing all the sandwiches and jacket potatoes and things, and in the building, in the banquet building, because they had offices downstairs. So I did all that for them to make ends meet while I got this order from Europa Foods. And then 3 months into the order starting, the whole thing, almost collapsed, because I was getting the orders through by a fax machine every day. And I was like, oh my, wow, 500 boxes of egg cool noodles, 500 boxes of, these noodles anyway. And I was making them by hand with 2 part-time kitchen staff um, that I had got from the what's it, the local job centre.
Yeah.
I'd advertised. And 3 months later, I got a phone call from Tim and said, Ching, none of the noodles are selling. We're going to have to go to sell return. I'm really sorry. But, and here I was like, oh, wow, my God, we're on a roll. Business is, my hands are all raw from like grating the carrots and making all these boxes. And I was just, my heart just sank. And I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And you go back to square one. And we had to do sale return. And I had to go to the shops and literally stand in a shop and, look at a punter pick up one of my noodle, boxes, and then look at it and then put it back down. And I'd go and interview every single one. I'd be like, why did you pick that up? What made you notice it? And then why did you put it back down? Why didn't you buy it? So there was all these things that that was my food business, and that was 10 years of that.
Wow.
It roller coaster journey, and the list goes on. But it was while I was on my journey in Fuji that not long after I met Jamie through a fateful evening. If we hadn't met that evening, I don't think we would have ever met. And Jamie's my husband, and his sister Fiona at that time was working for UK Food, and she was the press officer. And she loved my noodles. She said, Ching, I love your liang mian. It's so delicious. Because surely, you've got to come in and cook on the segment of Great Food Live. And this is with Jenny Barnett, and it was like the biggest, food show on TV at that time. And so I was like, okay, well, sure, yeah. So I had my, noodle. I brought my noodles. I brought my drinks. I I went to the offices in Great Portland Street. She introduced me to Gareth Williams. He was the commissioner at that time, and he was like, "Sure, definitely. If you love cooking and stuff, and I love your noodles, why don't you go for a screen test at for at UK Food, for Great Food Live?" So I said, "Okay, sure." So I went, and then anyway,
And then your
cut a
TV.
long story
Yeah.
short, that that then started my TV journey.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you working in TV? TV doesn't pay." How much are they paying you? You could make more in noodles. Concentrate on making the noodles. So, I felt like Kung Fu Panda,
Yeah.
like, but I don't want to make noodles. I want to be a star.
Yeah. But Ching, I just want to stop.
Anyway.
I want to stop you there because that is quite an extraordinary tale of resilience and tenacity. To having the chutzpah or whatever you call it as a student to go around, or just barely out of being a student, to go around and knock on doors and sell your noodles, and to have the kind of get up and go, to have that drive. So tell us that when you reflect back, what are the qualities that got you through that that period? Because it sounds like a very tough period.
It was a tough period, but I think I had no choice. I'll be honest with you. As I said, up until that point, it was 5 years of uncertainty and of worry and stress and thinking, well, how am I going to help my folks? And, you know, um, bless them, the English is good, but, the English is a second language, and they tried to make things work over here. They had a stroke of luck in South Africa, but they didn't over here. So, it was just, and I obviously my English was better. And so I felt like I got in the role of being the parent almost, like, thinking, well, I think I could. Uh, it was just really out of necessity. I think if you either sink or you swim. I think you get to that point, and I thought, well, I have to swim. I've got no choice. So, um, and here are these opportunities. And I was always taught, actually, and I think this is down to my father and my mum, because even though my mum didn't go to university at all. She had what's it called, like an accounting, degree course type qualification. And I think both of them just wanted, uh, they have this spirit of moving forward, all the time. And I think that is, what I've got from them, is that, you never give up, you never give up on anything, you just keep going. So I think, yeah, I think that, when people say to you, oh, never give up on your dreams, and it just seems so blasé to say that, but it's so true. Uh, you really, uh, I believe that, life is what you make of it. I really do. And I think, you could be, I mean, my parents are, my grandparents are farmers. My father was the only one that got a university degree out of seven. We could have ended up and stayed in the village in Taiwan, for the rest of our lives. My life now could be so different. Um,
What would
but
what would
he took
what would life be like if you were still there, if you had never left? What would you be doing,
Well,
do you think?
actually, it'd probably be quite idyllic. I mean, I'd probably be a farmer, something that I still want to go back to. So it's funny, the older I get, I've got green fingers and I'm growing everything. So, anything I can eat, basically. So yeah, so probably
That
be,
that
yeah, I
that's
wouldn't have all the stresses of modern life and,
that's funny.
you know,
So you can take the girl out of the farm, but you can't take the farmer out of the girl. So
yeah,
you might end up back on the farm. Beautiful.
yeah, yeah, I dream of it. So one day,
One day.
definitely.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Lovely. So moving forward, like your after that, after you sort of demonstrated your noodles and you had that screen test for UK food, that sort of kicked off your TV career.
Mm.
So can you tell us what kind of career obstacles you had, if any, and how you dealt with them?
Um, there were many. I mean, it was obstacles all the time. It was obstacles in the food business, there's obstacles, thinking, well, when's the next contract going to be? Or, oh, I really enjoyed that gig that I got from UK Food, but what next? Like, where is this going? Uh, so I'll be honest, I never really thought about it that much. I really did just go with the flow.
Hmm.
Like I thought, well, if there's another opportunity, then if they call me back, sure, I'll carry on. I just made sure that when I was asked and given the opportunity, that I did the very best that I could. You know, so I'd spend time researching. I would look up recipes. I wasn't the world's best cook. By absolutely no way. Was I? And I had to really learn and teach myself again. And actually, through that process, I actually found a part missing of myself, because actually, growing in the West here as a teenager, I just wanted to be blonde and blue eyed, because I thought, well, all the girls at my school, they seemed to have it all, and I was the one that, didn't have, like, my parents were struggling to pay the fees. That no one knew about that. But, their lives seemed, simple and carefree. They had their family around them. They, weren't going through financial difficulties. Not that I could see. Obviously, everyone now, has different problems. But at that time, it was, I just wanted to be different. I wanted to be anyone else but me at
Mm,
that time.
mm,
So, when I was given the opportunity to write my book, my first cookbook, which came with a TV project for UK Food, um, I didn't know what I was doing. I was really scared. I was afraid. But I thought, I'm just going to go with it. I've been given this opportunity. So I'd work at Fuji all day, and at night I'd come back and I'd cook the, dinner. I would test recipes at dinner time. And then after that, about 9 o'clock, I would start writing this book. And so I had 100 recipes to deliver. So I had to research it. And I didn't realize how much fun I would actually have in
mm,
writing the going back, the memories of my grandmother and her dishes and all of that, that actually it wasn't a chore. I found that process so, in a way, cathartic, and also
Mm,
connecting with my roots.
mm.
So for me, it was a privilege, an honor that I thought of it as that, and then I handed the book in, and then it got published, and yeah, and I did well, had great reviews, and um, but actually, my first TV show, Ching's Kitchen, got mixed bag of reviews. I think loads of people said that girl can't cook, and the other half was like, oh, I love her. She says everything's delicious. Everything must be delicious. I said I would say delicious in a segment, in a recipe segment about 10 times. I couldn't find the culinary vocabulary yet, and
Yes. Yes.
so it's really quite a fun, deep, thrown in the deep end. Didn't know
Yeah.
anything.
So it
Best
sounds
way to
like it.
learn.
So it sounds like through that study, it sort of really connected you with your roots and your worth as well. You talked about what as a teenager or a student wanted to be blonde and blue eyed, but actually, writing that first book sounds like it really connected you with who the glorious bit of you, who you are.
I think it was a gift. I see it as a gift, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, definitely. I think without that, and this is what I want to say, is that sometimes, the most scariest things in life are disguised as gifts. And if we'd only realize it at the time, you know. So sometimes we can scare ourselves into, I think, inaction, um, when actually it's a test to say, well, here it is. You said you wanted it. The universe is giving it to you. Do you want it or not? And it's that question. It's completely up to you to say, okay, well, I choose to accept it, and I'm gonna do what I can, or actually, I'm so afraid, and no, I'm not going to do it. So I feel that and many people will disagree with me, but I personally feel that the choice is yours. Um, yeah, to make every step of the way. So it is scary, but you got to reach out, and then when the opportunity comes, yeah, be prepared for it, and also um, be careful what you wish for. Because that's the most joyous thing, is that actually, it could be given to you. Now, are
Yeah.
you ready? Yeah, to
Yeah.
step up to the plate. So,
I love
yeah,
that. I
I mean,
love that. It's sort of like, it's basically, when opportunity knocks, don't knock it. But and you
that's
see,
it.
yeah, you seem to have always said yes to opportunities. And but talking about what you were saying about, oh, I wasn't the best chef and la 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 la. So does that mean that you have suffered from imposter syndrome over the years? And if you have, how have you dealt with it?
Oh, I'm an imposter in everything that I do. Like in the business, Fuji, I don't know what the hell I was doing, when I was, being interviewed for like the job at Next. I'm not a salesperson. I don't know about shoes. I mean, I don't know about clothing. Yeah, sure, looks nice on you. It's a great color. I mean, the thing is, w- you really learn on the job, and you really make the best of everything, I think, and you got to just have fun doing it. I think we all have imposter syndrome. I have it every day. Sometimes I'm asked to do a speech, I don't know, for an event, and or I tell you what I really revel in, actually, is teaching. Because when I teach, um, and like a recipe, or a class, it puts me back to that feeling of nervousness and that excitement, and that and yes, you are imposter, but then I think, oh my, I'm relearning, I'm rediscovering this dish and the love of this dish, actually, through teaching again. So actually, that's how I operate, is that, I yeah, I mean, definitely imposter, 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 stamped every day, you know. But I think, regardless of the imposter, it's just not to let the imposter. That imposter is kind of like the adrenaline that is there, that centers you, that says like, okay, now are you ready for this? And it kind of, I think, imposter meets professionalism. I think the imposter can drive you to become a better professional, in fact, because
Mm,
you're always
mm,
dealing with that, you know, and we always need it. This is what we call the yin and yang, you know, the balance, the
mm.
energy, the force, push and pull. How do you know if the imposter thing is good? Because it makes you, if you don't feel like an imposter, then maybe it's game over in your career, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe there's
yeah,
nothing
maybe
left
if
for you to learn if you don't
yeah,
feel a bit of nervousness, or,
yeah,
you know, then where's the love? It helps to keep you in check, you know, of
yeah.
what you love and what you don't love.
It's such a great way of putting it because it's sort of like I think to me it sounds like you love being, or you're not daunted by being out of your comfort zone because you're in your growth zone. So
Mm.
you're one of those people that either by necessity or um, because of drive, whatever, has embraced the fact that you're going to feel a bit out of your comfort zone, but the joy of learning and what you get out of that is a really positive reward.
Yeah, I think that that is probably, I mean, my husband, so Jamie always says this. He's like, look, it may, why is it, you know, that A to B, you drive from A to B and that's easy. Why do you have to create a C? And why do you have to go from A, C to then B? Why you, even when something seems straightforward? I've always I don't know, maybe it's because that when you're given so many obstacles that you end up expecting obstacles, and that's sometimes not very good either in your
Right,
life. Do you know
right.
what I mean? And
Yes,
actually, that it's just good to just to go with the flow of things, and that's
yes,
it's a balance, and I haven't figured it out, absolutely not. But you're right, I mean, it's weird. Sometimes I think some people thrive on uncertainty, where some people kind of recoil at uncertainty.
yeah,
And I think that actually some healthy bit of uncertainty is good, because it allows you to question what it is that you really want, the
yes,
next,
yeah,
your drive. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, excellent.
I don't know.
And what is it like at times when you need that extra bit of inspiration or oomph or just that little bit extra energy? Or do you have any kind of heroes or heroines or inner champions or what do you use to inspire you to keep moving forward, as you say?
I mean, the older that I get, I just want to do gardening every day, so I don't want to do too much. But um, I, you know, I for me, my heroes and heroines are definitely my family members. I think, you know, in this life, when you are, I think our biggest challenge is our family sometimes, in that they are, it's funny, isn't it? Like, you know, you come into this planet with a few buddies around you, your support system, and you can't divorce them, and they're there for with you for life, and they're the only people that see you grow and how you develop, and they know you the most. And yet sometimes they are the sort of the struggles, and because, like, you know, my mother's a tiger mother, and even now to this day she'll be like, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that, and every day she's like pushing me, and I'm like, it's not that easy, you know, if I could do this, you know. So she has that expectation, so she's always driving me forward too. So um I think she's also she's my heroine, but in a sort of stronger word, she's also my nemesis in a way, because she's you know, the conversations we have, it's so yin and yang. We could have a beautiful conversation about the day, and then suddenly it was switched
Yes.
to, why aren't you doing this? And
Yeah.
and so she's amazing, and I really respect that everything that she has to say. We sometimes don't always agree, but my father is he's so zen, so chilled out, and just a great listener. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think we just want to be listened to, and to vent, and
Yes.
there, and be a mirror, for someone to be a mirror for you, so that you can just bounce an idea off, or having a sounding board. So yeah, both my parents, absolutely. And then Jamie, you need to have someone on your team who is good at problem solving. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mm. So
it's
he's
good to
a
have someone that's much calmer.
yes. So he's a good sounding board. They're the sort of people on your board, your parents and Jamie, sort of
Yeah, they're
supporting
my
you.
board of
Your board of
directors.
directors. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, being heard, there's a fantastic quote. I can't remember who it's by, but it says something like being heard um it is like being loved for most people, that there's barely no difference, so having somebody actually hear you and listen to you is such a valuable thing.
Mm.
And Ching,
Oh,
what would
that's
you
beautiful. I love that. Yeah,
I'll find you the quote,
please
and
share.
I'll find you the quote
Yes,
and send it to
please.
you. Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
So, what would you say? So, there's lots of budding entrepreneurs and people that will be listening. What would you say is the hardest lesson that you've had to learn, if you wanted to give people a bit of a shortcut?
Oh, the hardest lesson. Um, the hardest lesson is definitely, I think, the self-doubt. I think that, is a hard lesson. When that's that's when a confusion takes place, and uh, the worry and the stress and all of that. So I think, to overcome that, and we all have it, because when you're, I mean, nothing's more difficult than setting up a business or setting up a project that you love, and there's all these obstacles in the way. And by the way, obstacles are there so that it can gauge, it's there to help you to say, well, am I going in the right direction? Because if you didn't have obstacles, you'd never know. you,
Mm,
you know so it is good, but the self-doubt, I think, is something that is to be mastered, I think, over time. And everyone has the ability to do that. It's the voice in the head that is irrational, that
mm,
that 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 it's understandable, but
mm.
it's irrational. There's
Yeah.
no, it's just really yourself putting yourself down. Now, why would you do that? If you, this is your dream, and you're meant to, and you're here for a reason, to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And if you love yourself, then why would you do that to yourself? Why would you be unkind to yourself? If anything, in the moments of the most difficult times, you should be your biggest cheerleader. It's that dialogue. You should say, of course you can do it. Yeah, come on. Yes, we're all imposters, whatever. But just, you can do it, just do your best.
Yeah.
And I think we all have to be a better coach for ourselves,
Yeah.
because it's easy when we, push our friends on, or our loved ones on, or
Yes.
children, or say, you can do it, you can do it. But I think sometimes that self-doubt can take over, and we all have it, and I've suffered from it a lot, many times.
And so,
So
what's your sort of go-to trick when you're suffering from self-doubt?
I think the thing is, it is about self-care. It's
Hmm.
about just trying to be aware of those voices, so you catch yourself, when you are being unkind or being very critical, about yourself. Or after it could be after you've done something and actually it's good, but you're like, well, I could have done it better, and you kind of play it over and over and over in your head. A little bit of it, it's good, but just remember to pull back, and don't be so hard on yourself. And I think meditation is, is it's really helped me personally. um, and it's something that I really I enjoy doing. Or sports like swimming for me is you get into a quiet space, and it's just going into yourself and trying to nurture yourself,
Mm.
because it's hard when you're giving of yourself all the time. You need to replenish. Your
Yes.
cup's got to be full in order for you to fulfill all the different hats that you might be wearing. So
Yes. Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Totally. Yeah. And what about another thing that I think people worry about is other people's perceptions of you. You know,
Mm.
people really care about what other people think. Um,
Mm.
does that resonate for you? And what would your advice be for that?
We all do. I think we all, you know what it is? It comes from a place of, I think, we all want to be loved. We all want to be seen and noticed, and we want to be, uh, we want to be cherished by other people, and that's fine. Healthy expectation of that, especially when you give it. So to have that being given to you, it's lovely, and I think that is a good thing. But I think um, try to find a strong sense of yourself, of who you are, you know, so that you know who you are, you can fill your own cup without that need for praise or for validation or for you know um, for that love. You can only do what you can. You can't control what other people think of you, or how they see you. I mean, God, that would be exhausting.
Mm,
Now, you can only do the best that you can, and that's really of a giving. You are giving nature. When you are concerned what others think of you, you are taking from them
mm,
energetically. You
mm,
know, and I only say that because I love Buddhism. I love the spiritual philosophy that comes with it, and all the Zen stuff. And it's like energetically, it's good to have a healthy exchange so that it's balanced. But on the whole, the energy that one wants to give is to give,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
not to have that expectation. I think we are all at our best when we are giving,
Yes.
of ourselves in service, or through work, or but yeah, it's that expectation, and then the control. It becomes to you then start to be confused, and you start to lose who you really are
Yes.
in that.
Yeah.
And you then are also susceptible to being controlled. Why would you want to let someone else determine you know your life?
Yes.
Why should you even relinquish so much control and your power to another person so they can control you know what you do? So
Yes.
I think it's all about that that yeah, nurturing yourself
Yes.
and finding yourself and knowing who you are. And
Yes.
we're all different, and we are all celebrated. We all have our hopes and dreams. We're all unique. I mean, that's why when you look at your fingerprints, we know print is the same. That
Incredible.
means you can leave your print, on life, whatever you want. So I find that so fascinating, like just um, as a gift,
Yes.
So
That's
yeah,
so that's
don't,
so true, Ching, isn't it? I hadn't thought about that. Every single person's fingerprint is different. Um, and I think it's so true. I think it's like find yourself, really understand who you are. I think because I I talk a lot about imposter syndrome and work with a lot of people who have imposter syndrome, and I always think, oh, it's because you're trying to be like somebody else's ideal, and if you forget about trying to live up to somebody else's ideal and just try to be fearlessly you, then you can't really
yeah,
go wrong. And I think that's the work should be on, as you say, understanding yourself, becoming self-aware about yourself. Who are you, rather than putting the energy into trying to live up to being somebody else's ideal or what you think somebody else wants from you. It's a very valuable lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit that, you put it so much more succinctly than I did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's, yeah,
It's
beautiful.
be
Yeah.
fearlessly you. But it's not that easy. You have to
Yes.
kind of work at it. Lovely. And one of my questions, we're getting to the end now, but one of my big things is that a lot of people are scared to sell themselves and hustle and, market themselves. And you've had to from a very early age. You said, you talked to us about how you
Yeah.
began, and it was out of necessity. But what are your methods when you have to kind of sell yourself or market yourself or hustle? What's your kind of approach to it?
Um, you know, it I enjoy the challenge of trying to, what's the word? Convince somebody, that, oh, this dish is delicious and you've got to try it, or have you thought about this? And I love that. I love the, you know, I don't know. My mum says that ever since I was young, I was such an argumentative child. So I love this. I love debate, chat, different perspectives and things. I just love that. So I don't. So I love the exchange of things, and I love how we all see things from a different perspective. So I love interacting with people, and I love to hear what they think and their views. And
Yeah.
so I'm not afraid of selling.
Yes.
If I have if I'm very clear in my vision, and I have a strong intention and vision and passion
Mm.
for what it is that I believe in.
Mm.
If I don't, then you're going to hear about it. You won't hear about it. Actually, you'll hear more about it if I'm, passionate. So I think it's about, yeah. I mean, we all have the ability to sell. It's I think selling is finding your voice.
Yes.
So it's celebrating, you and your voice and your opinion, and then it's giving yourself that uh, permission to express yourself,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
Because you can't sell something that you don't. If you really want to be authentic
Yes.
to yourself, of course, it's like you can't sell that. I
Yes.
don't like it.
Yeah.
So,
So you wouldn't be able to sell pret-a-manger's noodles in the same way that you can.
oh, definitely no.
Okay, so
Yeah,
authenticity and clarity of message, brilliant.
authenticity.
Yeah. And then, so Ching, I think I might know the answer to this now, but how do you measure success?
Um, I don't know. I would. Success is what you make of it. I think you can feel. I mean, I feel blessed every day that I have that most of my uh, clients are in the food business, so I get to have lots of free food. you know, so I'm never going to go hungry. I mean, the first thing my mum called me was like, "Are you sure? Have you got enough food?" I'm like, "Mum, don't worry. I've just had food parcels delivered. I have rice. I have noodles. I'm fine." So that's you know. But joking aside, I think I feel blessed every day. I think peace of mind, if I can sleep well at night, uh, you know, I'm happy. If I can eat well, I'm happy. Um, and I think it's just really that simple, you
Mm,
know,
mm.
uh, just a balance. Balance. I've had times when I've had a lot of stress in my life, uh, being on this treadmill all the time to get things done one after the other, and I'm not so young anymore, and I feel like, why did I put myself through all of that? I sometimes I didn't even enjoy that experience.
Mm.
So as I progress, I want to become more aligned with my beliefs, the work that I do, It's going to give me much more inner peace. And I think, that alignment is really not what my work is, but what your soul purpose is.
Mm.
Your soul's purpose. I love spirituality. I love all of that. So I'm trying to do what I feel right, and
Yeah.
connects on a deeper level.
Yes.
But everyone's ambitions and different, where they are in different stages of their professional working life, is different. So you will find your own rhythm.
Yes.
The most important thing is, I think, go with the flow. A healthy work-life balance is key. It's not all about work, and it's not all about play. It's not all about Netflix and time off. So make
Yeah.
sure you do enough of both.
Yeah, beautiful. It's like, eat well, sleep well, inner peace, alignment with your purpose.
Yeah.
And I thought you were going to say, I want to be knee deep in planting stuff back
I
on the
do.
farm. Yeah, that's what you're thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Someone's just sent me a link for sludge facials. So I don't know, I'm going completely off topic, but I don't know, it's the next big thing. So
Next big
yeah, knee
thing.
deep in
Forget the
sludge.
noodles. Forget the noodles. Let's
Forget
do
the
a slush
noodles.
business. Yeah. Okay. And then I would say, just to wrap it up, Ching, if you, for those of the people who are listening and watching, what would you think would be your 3 golden rules or 3 bits of advice to career confidence and sort of fearless leadership?
Fearless leadership. Yeah. Step into your power, right?
Mm,
Dream big.
mm,
Uh, never give up.
mhm,
And I would say invest in yourself.
mm.
You know, never stop learning. So yeah, keep your dream. Your dream is what will, drive you obviously towards the action.
Yeah.
But actually, one more thing is, I think intention is important too. I think know yourself, like to know yourself is to also question why you really want what you want, why you want it,
Yes.
basically. And I
Yes.
think sometimes that success flows, I'm always thinking, how, you look at athletes and you look at people who've also achieved a lot in their life, they're in that state of flow. And how is that achieved? And it's obviously hours and hours of hard work. The amount of hard work you have to put in to something, that's number one. Obviously, don't give up, because otherwise you'll never get there. And obviously, you have your vision, so you dream big. But then the other thing, the last final thing I want to say is intention. Why you're doing it, being
Mm,
honest to yourself. Because if you are not really honest with the intention and why you want to do such a thing, then sometimes, that's when things aren't in flow,
mm,
and you might not get the success or whatever. So you
mm.
be very honest with yourself, and that's all that needs.
Yes.
As long as you're honest with yourself and you know what it is, I think.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds very abstract, and it's
Yeah, but I
but
think I
I
mean,
don't.
it's being honest about your why you want something. And I think that if you're honest with yourself about your why, then it just helps with clarity of direction, doesn't it? I mean, it just helps
Yeah,
with clarity of what you're doing. So you don't waste
yeah,
time following some other path. I think that's a those actually you gave us 5, I think, 5 or 6 brilliant
five,
tips there.
yeah.
That's amazing.
But
Thank you.
it's okay. But one last thing to say, it's the intention, and then actually in service. So intention in service to, whether it's for a greater good, or, you know, um, for your community, for your family, when it's all those things coupled with that one extra,
Mm,
I think it's just, the pot of that pot cooker will just blow right off, and
amazing.
you'll achieve, even quicker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, anyway. Sorry,
Yeah.
Six things. Sorry.
No, no, that is wonderful. You've basically blown our pot off with an abundance of wisdom. Ching,
Oh, I don't
that
know.
was absolutely wonderful. There is so much invaluable
Oh,
advice there and wisdom, and thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking us through the highs and lows. And I end as I begin, full of admiration for you and your tenacity and determination to get through and to make things happen and to make things work. And I wish you well, and I wish you all that balance and inner peace and purpose you were talking about, and may your pot boileth over.
thank you so much. And I wish you the same. Um, I'm really, I'm in awe of you and your spirit, your generosity, your vision, your optimism, and your love for everyone to do well. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Ching. That means a lot. Thank you very much
Oh.
indeed.